Matt Mahoney plays right back for Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC of the USL Championship, the second tier in U.S. soccer. Being cut from Red Bulls Academy and going to a smaller Division I school didn't help his aspirations of going pro. They certainly didn't hold him back. This is the hardest worker in the room with Matt Mahoney.
So what does making your own path mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's doing, specifically for soccer and football for myself, it's been kind of just trying to find the joy in it and doing what you have to do to get to where you want to be. I mean, as you know, you've been doing this podcast for a bit, and the longer we play, the more people we know and realize how small the soccer world is. Everyone's kind of got a different path to making it professionally. So for me, it was the academy level, which is being introduced as we were kids, to college, undrafted, just fortunate to be able to go to a tryout and, perform well and sign from there. And then was fortunate to be with my coach now still that signed me originally. So making your own path is literally about kind of doing what you have to do and grinding to get to where you want to be. And, at the end of the day, we're all never where we want to be. I'm sure we'd be wanting to be in the Prem or for us, even MLS or a higher level. But sometimes it is what it is. So it's finding the joy in the little things and just being happy that we're still able to play and do what we love.
Love that. So we have a lot of listeners here in Germany. We've had some guests on as well who've started their careers in professional academies. So I think it's a great kind of thing to show maybe some similarities, some differences, because you grew up, you played some years in the Red Bulls Academy. So what was that process like for you between training, games, schedule, making you better, both on the field, mentally preparing for it? What was your experience like?
I firmly believe if I didn't play for the Red Bull Academy growing up, I wouldn't be where I am now. I mean, it completely changed my life. From your own experience up in the Hudson Valley, like there's no really academy system, and it's just local clubs. There's not really a good foothold to get you to the next level. So I ended up traveling to Jersey for 3 years, and then I got cut actually my 16th year, and ended up playing for Gotchi, which was still an academy team. But I obviously don't know much about the German system. But for me, I think at the time it was the place to be for someone that's trying to make it to the next level, because ODP was kind of dwindling away, and local clubs weren't good enough. But in terms of professionalism, I remember some of the experiences I had going there, and it made me realize things that really matter, like taking care of yourself off the field, how you show up and train every day, like the mentality you have, and it really teaches you to be kind of like a young professional. And I think that's even more accelerated today because a lot of clubs, like the Uni, for example, I saw when I played with the Steelers, they have their YSC Academy and their like little residency program where people can actually live there. And it's like school is basically non-existent, but they basically breathe and live soccer. So it's kind of developing I'm kind of jealous actually.
Yeah, me too.
That's why we talk about make your own path. Like every path is different. But yeah, I firmly believe without the academy system and kind of the coaches at the Red Bull, growing up, I wouldn't be where I am now.
And what was the schedule like that?
Yeah, the schedule, we trained, I believe, like 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, and then we had our games on the weekends. So, it was tough. I'm not going to lie. I would obviously go to school during the day. We would train at 8 o'clock at night, get done usually around 10, and I was getting home around midnight, and then you start over the next day. But it was grueling, but I honestly loved it. Like I still live and breathe soccer, but back then it was like a dream come true. I mean, we had a really good group of 95s, like a bunch of guys that are still current professionals now. And so like I said, I wouldn't have been where I am without the Red Bull Academy. And I think the professionalism at the time they were and still are, they're gaining their kind of peak back. But like that Jesse Marsh era in the era before when Thierry Henry was coming in, like I remember looking up at like Juan Pablo Angel back in the day when he was the Red Bull striker and thinking like, this is where I want to be, because we got to have experiences of being around those guys. And I think it makes a world of a difference.
We talk a little bit about trials. It's like you really need to expose your best self throughout. You can't be afraid to lose the ball. You can't be afraid to get on the ball. You can't be afraid to be vocal and show all aspects of your game. So do you remember how you did in that, and like how you showcased yourself?
I remember like it was yesterday. So first and foremost, I tried to control my controllables, like being as fit as you can. So you go in, you don't know what the professional game is like because you haven't been around it as much. So I was like, I'm going to be as fit as I possibly can. So obviously I did all the strength training and stuff leading up to that. And so I went in, and kind of the way the 2 teams worked back then, and I'm sure they do now, is you have a lot of trialists in preseason. So you have maybe like 7, 8 signed guys, which is what we had at the time. And then you have academy guys that are playing with you, and then other guys that are just filling in preseason slots to get numbers for preseason games and whatnot. So I didn't know that heading into it. I just thought, oh, I'm going in, I'm going to just, grind and try my best, until I realized I was 21 at the time. I was playing with a bunch of 17, 18-year-old guys. So I was like, what am I nervous for? I mean, yeah, these kids are good, but at the same time, like, they're still young academy kids. Like, they're not getting paid to do this. So there's no reason to be nervous. So like, I just went in with the mindset that I'm going to go play confidently, because at the end of the day, if, you just want to say that you were able to do everything that you could have during the tryout. And so if you go in and you're nervous, then you're not going to be able to play your best. You're going to be making mistakes that you normally wouldn't, mentally and physically, and things like that. So I think it is a tough mindset to adapt and to have, but I think it's necessary. You have to kind of believe in yourself to go in there and be able to perform the best you can.
Now, using that same theme on games and everything now, is it the same kind of mindset going into this and
Yeah.
being able to be in a space where you can showcase your best self in a game and help the team?
Yeah, I think I'd say it's honestly a little different now, in terms of, now that I don't know how many exactly I have, but I might have like 115 or 120 games so far in the
Nice,
USL.
yeah.
So now it's just telling myself that I've been here before, and I played against the best in the league, guys that have been in the MLS and at higher levels, and that I know I can do this. Whereas back then it was trying to prove to myself that I can, where I was like, I want to prove that I could play with these guys, and that not getting drafted, that they were wrong not to draft me, that I deserve to be at a better school and things like that. And I still believe that to this day. I try to adapt that mindset for, new guys coming in. We have, a competitive team, guys that you're competing with for playing time all the time. And so I think to adapt that mindset, that you're always trying to get better, and to kind of hold the grudge for yourself for not being at maybe a higher level that you think you should be at, and always trying to strive for that. So I think it's a little different, but kind of the same.
Yeah. And what were some of the changes you noticed going into the professional environment compared to college?
How not nice people were, to put, I guess. uh, at the time obviously I was playing with young guys, but there was an older guy on the team that was 29 at the time. That's actually now one of my assistant coaches, James Chambers. And he taught me so much playing. So he was our kind of leader, Irish guy. So a very colorful language at the time, but just kind of taught me the ropes of how you need to survive in the game. And if you look at the guys that make it to the higher levels, they're not nice guys all the time. Maybe off the field they are, but to get to a certain level, you kind of got to be a jerk on the field and act a certain way, especially in certain positions, to either showcase yourself or show you're not getting bullied. Because if you show any weakness in the field, people are going to capitalize on that. So if if you're not tough, especially as a defender or somebody, and you're going against, this is a ridiculous example, but like a Mo Salah or something like that, he has any weakness, like, you're done for.
Yep. We have a lot of aspiring pros who listen to this. It's a very difficult question because it's such a long game and there's different things thrown at you. But in general, do you have some major tips for guys who want to go pro and stay pro?
Yeah, I think you always have to have the mindset of being the hardest worker in the room. And I think that should never go away, because I think, like, watching enough soccer now throughout my life, and kind of being at the pro level and playing with guys that have been in the MLS and other levels, is that there's not really that much of a difference between, if you're making it in the USL, there's only a little bit, in terms of making to the MLS that you need. And so I think if you adopt the mindset as a young kid of, always be the hardest worker in the room, then I think that will get you farther than any talent will. I know there's plenty of sayings out there about, talent and hard work, whereas, working hard beats talent all the time. If talent doesn't work hard, I don't know the exact saying.
I think that's it. I think that's the exact saying.
I know plenty of guys growing up that were much more talented than me when we were younger, but aren't playing now because they either just lost the desire or didn't have it mentally. And I firmly believe that the mental side of the game is equally, if not more important than the physical side, because it's long seasons. You're out of the country for a long period of time, away from family, which isn't easy. And, we're across the country, different areas. So I think to be able to, we talked about, getting away, have, a little break from soccer, as well as kind of a strong support system helps. And then just being able to fight through the rigors of, if you get an injury, if you're not playing, you have to realize that happens to everyone. And so this game's not for somebody that's kind of mentally soft. And so if you adopt the hardest working attitude from being a kid, I think it'll take you pretty far.
Connections. We preach about it all the time on this podcast. how important it is to get moves to other teams, helping other players get to your team that you want to build on your roster when you become maybe in a higher position in the team. How have you built connections throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how a lot of guys end up. Sometimes we talk about how did this guy end up at a certain level where you didn't think he was that good of a player, and you talk about connections like, oh, he knew this guy. So that's where I'm fortunate to be where I am now because of my connection that I made with these coaches my first year playing, and now, I'm playing well on a very good team in the USL because of them. So I think connections are a huge part, and and I'm hoping the same thing leads to my post career. I mean, I don't necessarily know if I want to coach, but with my kinesiology degree, I've always known I've wanted to stay around athletes and maybe work in professional sports. And so having these connections, and the longer you play in a league, the more people you know. So other coaches know me around the league, other players, just like we're able to do this podcast now, it's through connections. So I think being open-minded, whether it's helping a player get to your team that is young, or that's somebody that that is just helping them out, connecting with your coach, or it's using that for yourself. I mean, I remember when I was an intern, because I got to know some of the Philadelphia Union guys at the time, I was reaching out to them on social media asking, what their path was to the pros, to see if there were any similarities or if there was anything I wasn't doing to get to that level. So I think if any connection, and I'm sure you guys are the same. I have guys that reach out to me on Instagram all the time, asking me if they have slots that are open on this team, and they don't necessarily understand how it works. So you can't just come to the team and walk on like it's an open trial somewhere. But at least I give them credit for trying, and I'll try to help them in any way I can, because that's how I got my chance. If I didn't have connections, I wouldn't be playing right now.
Yeah, no, it's funny because some guys don't know how it works, but it's you shoot your shot, I guess, at the end of the day. We have a thing like on our website where we'll give like free consultations to anyone who wants to know about like getting into Europe, because we've been here for so long now, especially in Germany. We know a lot about Germany, so we know visas, we know teams, we know contracts, we know leagues, so we encourage people to shoot their shot. Say again?
Yeah, no, I said it's just invaluable information that you get from experience that you might not have had somebody that, you could, I don't know if you did, but somebody that you could talk to that was playing in Germany at the time that could teach you about that stuff. Whereas you probably learned a lot of it just through experience. Whereas now you can help other people and give them an extra leg up.
Exactly. So one last thing before the fast feet round, we talk a lot about in this podcast about having a direction and not necessarily an end goal. So for us, Sean and I, one of our directions has always been to be the best footballer we can be, the best soccer player we can be, the best all-around person we can be, and then the rest will kind of fall into place. These are the control and the controllables. So, I mean, I know you said you didn't really know exactly what you want to be after football, but even with the rest of your football career, can you share with us some of your directions and ambitions?
Yeah, I think we honestly kind of share a similar mindset in that regard. For me, it's things focusing on, as I'm getting older now, being a good leader for a lot of the younger guys. Because a lot of the younger guys we bring in, some of them that are 17, 18, they don't want to be playing in the USL forever. They want to get to the MLS and they want to get to the next level, and we know that. And so it's just trying to kind of help them in the best way you can to try to be the best versions of themselves. And that actually, I think, helps you in the end too, because you learn a lot from them that you maybe didn't think you could realize, even though they're young guys. And then you're obviously learning from older guys as well. So I think, I mean, it's a little cliche and corny, but it is all about the journey. And so if you stop and think about it, like sometimes you think, wow, like look at where I am right now from all the hard work, even though you want to be at a higher level, you always have to be thankful about where you are and how you got here and things like that. So I think people that focus on the end all the time maybe are missing a lot of the parts in the middle. So as we get older, if you were to ask me the same question 5 years ago, I probably would have said something else, because now I have different experience and perspectives from playing for my 6 years now. So I think it's just being able to have an open mind and kind of always trying to learn and just enjoy the process. Otherwise, you'll blink and we'll be 35 years old and be done playing,